It is 7 o'clock. I will call the meeting to order. Before the adoption of the agenda, I know that at the council meeting, we don't usually add to the agenda, but sometimes things that cannot wait are there. With your permission, we have a couple of additions on 8.5 under correspondence. We have a letter from Andrea Berg from District Number 6 resident, and 11.5, it's not an add, but in addition, but it's to change the way it is written. Here it says a motion to appoint. It should be a motion to recommend, a recommendation for representation from the community. We don't have the right to appoint. So the motion has been changed. So if you agree with the camera in session, we would like to add the Echo Park. So if there are no objections, we need a motion to adopt the agenda. Moved by Hector, seconded by Yvonne. All those in favor indicating by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion is carried. For the declaration of conflict of interest, is there any item on the agenda that puts you in conflict? No. If not, we will go on to 3 presentations. 3.1, audited financial statements. Palcamo and Gloria. You need to push a button. Yep, okay. Thank you, Carol. Thank you for having us here this evening. You have the financial statements in front of you. I think this evening I will make the presentation in English because Gloria Baines is here. She is an associate and she is involved in the auditing.
Independent auditor's report, and I would suggest that at any point in time, if anybody has any questions, please interrupt me. That's why we're here. I will also point out that these financial statements have been reviewed in detail with your audit committee, so that the presentation tonight will be quite high level and just really looking at the significant points in the financial statements. So page 1 is our standard independent auditor's report. The report does indicate who's responsible for what. We can see that in the first paragraph, management's responsibility for the financial statements. Management is responsible for the preparation and presentation of these statements in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards. The auditor's responsibility, our responsibility is to express an opinion on these financial statements based on our audit. And of course, we conduct our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. So we have standards to follow, and we have to comply with those standards in completing the audit of the financial statements. The second paragraph does highlight, the procedures selected depend on the auditor's judgment. And so what we do, of course, is we assess where are the risks, and we deal with those risks to come up with forming an opinion on the financial statements. The second page is the expression of our opinion. And basically what this is an unqualified audit opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the municipality as at March 31st, 2018, and the results of its operations, etc. So it's a clean audit opinion that we're giving. The finalization of the financial statements is subject to the approval of the council, which is what we expect will happen at this meeting. Page 3, with any financial statement under public sector accounting, there's also management has to sign off on the financial statements. And what we have on page 3 is management's responsibility for the consolidated financial statements. As you can see, this gets approved by your chief administrative officer and your director of finance. On page 4, so page 4, we have the results, the consolidated statement of operations. And what we can see from this is that for the year ended March 31st, 2018, the municipality of the District of Clare had a surplus of $664,000. It began the year with an accumulated surplus of $12,988,000, and the accumulated surplus at the end of the year is $13,652,000. Now, if we turn our attention, there's more of a detail on the results if we go to page 22. So on page 22, we can see the consolidated operations, which give us the anticipated budget, the actual for the year 2018 and the actual for 2017. On our tax revenue, our residential taxes were up about 1.6% at $4.7 million, $4,659,000 last year. Our resource, our taxable assessments, our commercial taxes were up about 3.2%. So as there was no rate increase, that represents a little bit of an increase in assessments in both of those categories. The other things to note here, the fire rate, we had $282,000 that was collected on behalf of the fire departments. Our deed transfer tax at $89,000 was a bit higher than last year, so that's an indication that there were a few more transactions this year than there were in the previous years. And we can see the reduction of the tax revenues, our appropriation to the school board being the significant one at $1.7 million, and the firefighting rate, area rate that was distributed was $211,000. And all of the transactions in this section were pretty much as what had been anticipated. Our total budget of $5,118,000 compared to an actual of $5,130,000, and the numbers were very close to the results in the prior year. Grants in lieu of taxes, budgeted at $139,000, came in at $139,000, and last year was $139,000. Turning to page 23, our landfill tipping fees were very similar to the prior year at $311,000, the prior year $317,000. Other revenue from own sources came in at $671,000 compared to the prior year $634,000, and we're very close to budget. The biggest category here are the rentals, $356,000, and the biggest part of that is the Clare Health Centre at $303,000. The other areas of this, we can see that Cape St. Mary's Lighthouse, we had budgeted $83,000. We'll see a similar amount later in the expenses. So that was really a capital grant that came in, and so is not showing here. We can see as well the Grand Fondo. So the Grand Fondo had revenues last year of $98,000, this year at $102,000. Unconditional transfers from other governments. We were at $347,000, which was up a little bit from the prior year of $329,000, and we actually ended up with additional grants of about $50,000, and we can see that basically was in tourism. And there was the Clare Veterans Center as well at $35,000. Conditional transfers from other governments. We had capital grants in the amount of $369,000 compared to $285,000. A lot of that had to do with the sewers, and as well some of that had to do with the Cape St. Mary Lighthouse. We earned interest of $153,000. Penalties and interest on taxes were down a little bit, and then the interest that we earned on operating reserves and the capital reserves and operations was about, the $23,032 was about $55,000. So our revenues from interest were $153,000 compared to a budget of $134,000, and down a little bit from the prior year. So our total revenues, $7,172,000, just a little bit below what it was last year, but we were a little bit above our budget. We had a budget of $6,970,000. Our actual was $7,172,000. So we're up about $200,000 on our revenues compared to our budget. All good so far? Yeah. On page 24, we have our expenses. So under general government services, our legislative, we can see that our council and committee costs were a little bit more than last year, a little bit below budget at $164,000. That was about $3,000 more than last year, but $2,000 less than budget. In our conventions, we spent about the same thing as last year, $18,000, $20,000 this year versus $18,000 last year, but we were under budget by about $10,000. Our general administrative expenses, We budgeted 696,000, but our actual came in at 592. We were about 65,000 below last year, and we find that that's in two main areas. We actually had a surplus in our pension plan. The pension plan actuarial valuation was done, and where before we had a small deficit of about 6,000, this year we had a surplus of about 21. So, or 20. So we had a turnaround of about $27,000 there. So that resulted in a decrease in our expenses, and our salaries were actually down based on the changes in administration, et cetera here. We're actually down about $28,000. So that's the main reason for the drop in the administrative expenses. Other areas were basically as expected. We can see there other general government. We did have a small amount of money come in. It was a recovery on previous expenses that we weren't expecting. So we recovered $11,500 on expenses incurred in the prior year. That's showing as a little revenue here. So all in all, under administrative, that category, we ended up doing quite well. Last year, we had expenditures of $1.3 million. This year, it's $1,186,000. And we're actually below by about $150,000 from what was budgeted in that category. Protective services, RCMP administration being the largest amount, was up a little bit. So in total, that category, $1,230,000, about $30,000 below budget, about $45,000 above what we spent last year. Firefighting force, we spent roughly the same amount of money as last year, $293 versus $297. And then when we look at under other, we budgeted the building inspector a little bit higher. Our building inspector retired a year or two ago, and the extra expense that was expected didn't get incurred. We're at $166,000 versus budget of $186,000. So all in all, under protective services, we budgeted $1,858,000. We're at $1,763,000, and we're about $45,000, $50,000 more than last year. Page 25, transportation services are pretty much as what was spent last year. We budgeted to spend $11,500 on signs, and that money was not spent. That's the basic difference between our budget and our actual. Environmental health services, we see that in total we went from $1,681,000 to $1,585,000. So we're $96,000 less than last year. As we go through the different categories, our plant operations in Meteghan were a little bit more than last year. All of these expenses, to some extent, have to do with how many repairs we have to have on these sewer operations, and they can fluctuate a little bit. We see under garbage and waste collection, municipal collection, well, we're down quite a bit. We had budgeted $400. We're at $368. Last year was $466, so we're almost $100,000 less than last year. And that's due to we're in our second year, I think, of our 5-year contract, and it's proving to cost us less money for collection. Our dump operation, we see quite a drop from 236 to 166. Last year we had a fire in our dump, and the expense is sitting there. The revenue from the insurance claim is sitting on the other side in the revenues. But that's the main reason for the drop in our dump operation. Another big category, Queen's tipping fees, basically came in at roughly the same amount as last year. And we spent $47,000 in landfill closure costs, which was basically budgeted at $43,000. So in this category, we've ended up at $1,585,000. Our expenditures are actually about $100,000 less than what we had budgeted. Public health and welfare costs, $585,000 versus $544,000 the year before. The Clare Health Center, our expenses were up a little bit. We did see a small increase on the other side in the Clare Health Center rentals, but we're still below what was expected or what was budgeted in the Clare Health Center. Environmental development services, $387,000 versus $324,000. One of the things that happened there, we can see our expenses went from $126 to $179. There was a reallocation of wages due to the duties that were being performed here. And we're going to see a similar drop in recreational wages as the increase that we see here under economic community development. Other than that, the expenses were were pretty much as expected, except we did have an additional expense for the internet through the REN. On page 26, Recreation and Cultural Services. So as mentioned, we can see administration did drop from 290,000 to 202,000. We did see some savings in recreation. We didn't spend as much money in a lot of the different categories in recreation this year. Tourism was basically our expenditure at 196, was about the same as the previous year. So in total, our expenditure under recreation and cultural services was 668,000 compared to 741. So we're down, about $75,000 in that category. And then we have, so our total expenditures for the year, $6,393,000 compared to a budget of $7 million. So that's resulted in us having a surplus for the year. And we actually spent $6,393,000 compared to $6.6 million actual last year. Our expenditures did come in under last year for the year. So if we turn back to page 4 where we were, that's a bit of an explanation as to our annual surplus that we see before the undernote of $778,000. And we can see that we had a loss on disposal of, so $114,000. That's the demolition of a house that we had during the year. So we had paid for the house, we wrote off the house. The actual cost of the demolition was only $15,000 or thereabouts, I believe.
Actually around 7,000 or 8,000.
Okay,
yeah.
So that was actually writing off what we had paid for the house in the past when we bought in the Eco Park. So we're ending up, so if we turn now to page 5, and page 5 highlights where we are. So what's our financial position March 31st of 2018? When we look at this, we can see, well, our cash position has increased. We have restricted cash of 292 compared to 329. Our unrestricted cash, which includes our cash that we have in our reserves, is 4,934,000 compared to 4,196 the year before. Our taxes receivable were up a little bit, from 475 to 544. So is that an indication, that I think, though, there's probably a couple in there that are causing that to happen, and possibly related to the mink industry, which is not a surprise. Our receivable from our fire departments has dropped from 473 to 375, so that's money that was lent to the fire departments a number of years ago to re-equip them. And we can see our pension asset there is at $24,000, where the previous year we had a pension liability of $6,100. When we look at our liabilities are at $4.1 million. Our payables are very similar to the prior year. Our landfill closure, the amount that we've set aside to pay for future possible landfill closure costs, is sitting at $303,000. Our long-term debt, $1.9 million compared to $2.1 million. So that's dropped. We have basically 2 loans. If we want, we can go and look at what we have there. So in the notes to the financial statements, we can see what debt we have remaining on page 17, note 16. So there's 2 loans there. The balance remaining of $586,000 is related to the amount that we had borrowed of about $800,000 to re-equip the fire departments a few years ago. And the $1,375,000 is what's left on the medical center. So we really don't have we're not in a bad position. We don't have a lot of debt, and those are getting paid down. Up above too, I would point out in note 15 here, so these are the reserves that we have. So what we can see with the reserves is, in our capital reserves, we have $2,984,000, which is our capital reserve, basically. We have a little bit of money in a landfill reserve, and our operating reserve has gone to $1,299,000 from 436,000. So one of the things that happened this year is all of the accumulated surplus has been transferred to the operating reserve, which is, I believe, a motion that's going to be made at this meeting. So that shows the position of the reserves for the municipality. So we're well positioned for capital projects and other projects that we need to do in the future because, you know, with our reserves of $4.3 million. If we go back to page 5 then, the other thing that is to note here is underneath the debt we have deferred revenue. So included in that deferred revenue of $847,000 is a deferred revenue related to the unspent gas tax. So we have gas tax monies that we've received that are sitting there to be spent for specific things that qualify under the gas tax policies, et cetera. So you know, it's well to point out that there's 798,000 sitting in that 847 that represents that. So at the end of the year, we're ending up with net financial assets of $2,327,000 versus $1,865,000. And I would suggest that's one of the things that people look at. I don't believe this. My apologies. So that's one of the numbers, or one of the key numbers that people look at to determine what is the financial position possibly of the municipality compared to other municipalities and towns. And you know, that number I would say is you know, we're in a good financial position at 2.3 million. Remembering that in addition to that 2.3 million, we also have that unspent gas tax of about $800,000. So I don't really profess to go into any greater detail on the financial statements. As I said, we've gone through them in detail with the audit committee. I think the financial statements show that we're in a pretty good position going forward for the municipality of Clare. And that would be my report. So at this point in time, if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to try to answer them.
As-tu des questions? Har du-
Paul is retiring this year. I'd like to say thank you for all the work you did for the municipality, and good luck in your future projects. Thank you very much, Brian. It's been a pleasure. I've been coming for a while, and I've always enjoyed it very much. Pretty much since 1982 that I've been coming. It's been a great experience for me, and I can say that it's nice to see. I think that the municipality is in good hands. It's going forward. The finances are in a really good position, I would say. But it's been a pleasure of mine all these years. Thank you. Thank you to you. So next we'll go to number 4, adoption of minutes. 4.1. July 18, 2018, regular council meeting. Are there errors or omissions? If not, a motion in order. Proposed by Councillor DeVoe, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion passed. 4.2. August 8, 2018, special meeting of council. Are there errors or omissions? 4.3, September 5th, 2018, council and committee meeting. Are there errors or omissions? Proposed by Councillor LeBlanc, seconded by Councillor Hill. All in favor say yes. Against? Motion carried. Number 5, business arising from previous council meetings. 5.1, letter of support for farm residents in Clare. I see that Laura Redmond is here to see what the decision will be. She was asking essentially for a support letter. There's a motion that's been prepared if someone is ready to make it. Councillor LeBlanc? I move that the Council for the Municipality of the District of Clare write a letter to the Canadian Association for Community Living, Clare Branch, in support of their efforts to establish a therapeutic farm and residence in Church Point, Nova Scotia. Moved by, is there discussion on the motion? No discussion. All in favor say yes. Against? Motion adopted.
We'll go on to 5.2, resolution meeting NSFM. You can talk about it. If you remember, we had a discussion earlier this year. All the councillors of the province were approached by the NSFM to discuss or to communicate their priorities for the year that is coming. We were given a list of possible subjects, and we were asked to choose one or several of those subjects to indicate our priorities for the year. At the time, the council had decided that the internet was always a priority for the council, but since we already identified that as a priority, we also wrote in the letter that EPR was our priority for the year. It's a dossier we would like to see go forward. We submitted that information to NSFM as did all the other municipalities of the province. There was a report that was prepared from that. A draft of resolution was sent to all municipalities. There will be 3 sessions next week to discuss these resolutions. The one that we will have on September 24th at the Old Orchard Inn in Kings County, but essentially they are asking the members of each council of NSFM to revise the report and to give them our feedback if we have any, either by writing or when we are present at the consultation sessions. The feedback will be summarized to present to the executive of the NSFM, and there the executive will incorporate the feedbacks in the resolutions as they judge it appropriate. The final draft of the resolutions will then be sent for discussions to the conference that will be held in the fall. That being said, you were given the list of the resolutions. I don't know if you have any comments for tonight or anything you want to revise. We can discuss it tonight, or you can send them to me or to the NSFM. Or the other option is, if you want, the session will be held on the 24th at the Old Orchard Inn from 9:30 in the morning until noon. So if you had the chance to go and you think that our position has not changed, we all only need to send an email to say more or less that our position is the same, and these are our priority resolutions. Unless you want more time to examine this, to bring it to another meeting? First, I'm asking a question. After the 3 sessions in September and October, does that mean that there will be 5 resolutions, priority resolutions that will be recommended? The process in the past was everybody could send all the resolutions they wanted, and at the UNSM, it would take all afternoon to go through all the resolutions, and the people voted. So the NSFM has seen that it is not practical, because after the meeting you send a document with 30 or 40 resolutions to the province, and they say we can't do everything, so they would put it aside. So essentially, with a lot of discussion, it was better to have 2, 3, or 4 or 5 resolutions as priorities, and then work on those. From what I understand, you have the caucus meetings, rural caucus meetings, and the town caucus, and then you have Halifax and Cape Breton. So each caucus will vote what are their priorities, and after they decided their 5s, those 5 will go to the presentation at the annual meeting of the NSFM for vote. It's a long process, but the reason why it's Clare, in the past, if Clare wanted to send a resolution, it was sent in and everybody voted. And there could have been like 30 resolutions. They are trying, instead of having that approach, to have all the municipalities say that these would be more concentrated on the provincial priorities. Did I answer your question? We identified high-speed internet and extended producer responsibility. Like, could I add immigration? We can bring up to 5 resolutions, so certainly we are open to add. And if, as I said, if you want to take more time, it doesn't have to be done this evening. Would you like to add immigration this evening? Yes? As a priority? Are there any other priorities? We can put 5, but we want to be clear that we have internet and EPR as the 2 main priorities as we discussed it. So we will add immigration, and there are sessions if anybody's interested in going, but the nearest will be at the Old Orchard Inn in the mid-afternoon. So any more discussion? Do we need a motion? If there is a consensus to send these 3 priorities, and if you have anything else, you can certainly bring them forward. We will go on to 5.3, culvert repair for Rails to Trails Association. At the last meeting of the Committee of Council, we passed a motion to recommend to the board to approve $4,000 to reduce the pipe on the Rails to Trail, the culvert. It would be cost shared with the province, and if PTIR wanted to fix the pipe that went under their road. But since then, we had a lot of discussion on different information. I don't know if you want to add anything. After the last meeting, I spoke with Spec Resources. They have installed the pipe that goes under the Rails to Trails. If you remember, the transportation indicated that no other pipe could be installed unless the Rails to Trails was reduced by 2 feet, and the pipe was too tall, too high. And Spec that installed it, we called them and they went to see. At the time it was dry, there was not much water, and they came back. They went with their transit and they took the measures, and they came back and said that the pipe, according to their measures, is lower than what the TPIR said, and it cannot be put any lower because it's part of a water course. And if you bring it lower, you are bringing the water base lower also, which cannot be done. According to them, the problem has nothing to do with the pipe or the culvert for rails to trails. It is the problem with the TVIR culvert that goes on the road. TPR does not share the same opinion necessarily, so that's where we are now. Spec is ready to go check on the site with TPIR, Department of Transportation, and also with the Department of Natural Resources, because they can tell Spec where to put the pipe and at what depth. So there is a bit of difference of opinion regarding the pipe and what is the cause, the real cause of the problem. So if we want to look at the motion, in speaking with Gordon Wilson, we will try to meet with the Department of Transportation and Natural Resources, Spec and myself, to discuss this in the near future. So I think it would be appropriate, instead of passing the motion or to reject it, we should have a motion to postpone, to bring the motion to the council meeting in November. So if you agree with this approach, we would need a motion to bring the motion forward to November, when we have more information, and then we can pass it or reject it depending on the information that we will have. If we all agree, does anybody wish to make the motion? Moved by Councillor Thibault, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary? No, motion is carried. Next, we will go on to the Warden's activity report. My report is long a bit. I will not into more detail than necessary, but you can ask questions if you have any. On July 28th, I attended to the unveiling of the interpretive sign at the Odyssey panel at University Saint Anne, part of the 250th anniversary. On July 29th, I welcomed the opening of the Acadian Festival of Clare at St. Anne's. On July 30th, we received a delegation from China, the SISO, who came here at the municipal office for a visit. It was organized by China Business Bureau, David Wong and Peter McFellin. Essentially, they were teachers, but they came to visit University St. Anne to look at agreements, and they came here and then went to Riverside for a visit there. So that was a good visit. On August the 1st, I gave this opening presentation at the Community Expo at Église Sainte Mary in the 250th anniversary. Stefan and myself attended a meeting here for the physician recruiter for the Western Zone, just to essentially look at what was their strategy and going forward with the province in doctor recruiting, and the incentives, if the incentives have changed. And there is a committee in place to attract doctors. And we will have a meeting with the doctor recruitment committee in October. On August the 14th, there was a meeting in Yarmouth organized by Develop Nova Scotia to discuss the provincial strategy on the internet. In the past, it was called the Waterfront Development, but the province essentially is changing their mandate. They changed the name to Develop Nova Scotia. They changed the mandate, and that it is also not only for Halifax but for the province, and they are looking at monies for $200,000 for the internet. And there was a meeting coming October the 11th with the NSFM to look at the strategies around internet. On August the 15th, I attended to the flag raising at the center in Sonyville. On August the 16th, I welcomed a delegation from New Brunswick, a bus tour, Positive Voyages, who came to celebrate the 250th of Clare. On September 4th, there was a meeting of the Board of Directors of Université Sainte-Anne. On September 6th, I gave a small presentation at the banquet for Senior Fund Days at the hall in Sonyville, who are celebrating their 8th anniversary on September 6th. On September the 8th, I went to Argyle to attend or to listen to the Commission on the Boundaries Review Committee. There was a public session in Argyle. That night, there was also a meeting here at the Legion in Sonyville, and we gave a presentation there. On September the 12th, Stefan and myself, we went to Halifax for a meeting with Municipal Affairs and the Acadian Affairs on Francophonie to initiate discussions and recommendations that were included on the effective representation of the Acadian electors and African Nova Scotians that were specific to the municipality of Clare. That was the report that Kenneth DeVoe was part of, and there were two recommendations, specific recommendations regarding Clare. Essentially, that report, that commission had asked that we make a report to put terms of reference in place for the commission that would be looking at the electoral boundaries for the province. It's a bit complicated. There were a lot of different stages, but from what I understand, the government, when they received that report, they accepted all the recommendations that had to do with the boundaries, the provincial boundaries, but they did not accept at that point the other recommendations that included both specific recommendations specific to the municipality.
To be a municipality bilingual, so according to the MGA, that comes from the resources to make these changes. So we more or less went to open the discussion. I don't know if you want to add something. All I'd want to say maybe is that it was a meeting very positive. We argued our case. There were three deputy ministers there in the meeting and directors from the departments. So it showed that they took the meeting very seriously. And we engaged in continuing the discussion with them. Mark Beck from Municipal Affairs, I think he will take the lead on this file. So it's the first of what will probably be many meetings, but it was a great start. Next, on September 14th, I went to the official opening of the gym here at the university. That's now known that's now known under Centre Sportif Marcel R. Comeau. It's a project, $1 million, $500,000 from ACOA and $500,000 from Como Seafood. So that was an extraordinary donation from a company from Clare, and I think it should be recognized. September 15th, I went to the university's Governor's Council's meeting. So that's my report. I'm sorry it's so long, but if you guys have any questions, I will certainly try to answer them. Next, number 7, official statements from the members of council. Carl? Thanks, Morden. July 28th, I did a small presentation at the Metegan Wharf. It was for the Special Olympics. It was a group that went up to Antigonish for the Special Olympics, for the Canadian Special Olympics. So I went to do a little presentation, and Councillor Potier was there as well. We accepted the group. It was a great event. There was a lot of fog, but it was good. They were very happy. On September 10th, I went to a waste check meeting. I'll talk about that later. And on September 17th, I went to a Southwest Nova Biosphere Reserve Association meeting. We talked about all kinds of things. It was a good meeting, positive meeting. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor DeVoe. In District 1, there's a couple that celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. Norma and Irene Boudreau. I'll just read the certificate. The Council of the Municipality of Clare of the District of Clare wishes to congratulate you to recognize your 50th wedding anniversary, celebrated September 14th, 2018. We underlined this important event, and we hope that this has been very memorable. It has been celebrated on September 15th, and there were a lot of people at the celebration. And so once again, congratulations to both of you. Thank you. Somebody else has something to say? Councillor Patier? The Villa has a big celebration coming up on October 5th. Mrs. Rosalie Saunier will celebrate her birthday. We made a certificate on behalf of the municipality to celebrate her 100th birthday. Are there other presentations, official presentations? If not, we'll go to number 8, correspondence. 8.1, letter from the Digby Coral Federation, Linda DeMille. That's good. 8.2, letter from the Nova Scotia Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal from Honourable Lloyd Hines. Questions, comments? Next, we'll go to 8.3, letter from the Municipality of Barrington, the Warden, Eddie Nickerson. For information, the letter is addressed to
$3+ billion fishing industry and thousands of associated jobs, marine species, and ecosystems, as well as other industries such as tourism. Our entire well-being and way of life is at stake. Approximately a month ago, a report by BP of unauthorized discharge of drilling mud of approximately 136,000 liters illustrated the technical challenges of drilling in waters at significant depths. Council does not profess to be experts in this field. However, in light of the above incident and others historically, and the fact that other oil and gas companies may be considering drilling operations in our waters, we are requesting that the Canada-Nova Scotia Offshore Petroleum Board ensure proper measures are in place to mitigate such accidents. Our residents are depending on you and your departments to give this issue your utmost consideration and review. Yours truly, Lindsay Eddie Nickerson, Warden.
So I have
So you see the letter. I think you've received the email as well that there's a meeting in Yarmouth on September 25th at the Grand Hotel, the Nova Scotia Offshore Petroleum Board, to discuss exactly what happened. They encourage the councillors that are able to go. If someone's interested in going, certainly, I think we have to let them know before the 21st, but if you guys want to go, you could contact the office or send them an email directly. 8.4, letter from the Société Nationale de l'Acadie, Louis Zambeau, President. Thank you. This is regarding the proposal for, on behalf of the Société Nationale de l'Acadie, I just want to inform you that the date to hand in your proposal for the future host region of the Congrès Mondial Acadien was reported. Your municipality has until January 15th, 2018 to hand in your proposal to participate in the selection process of the host region of the World Acadian Congress 2024. We are excited, very pleased of your interest that you show and that your region shows to participate, and we are waiting for your proposal. Are there any questions? Councillor Comeau? Is it January 15th, 2018 or 2019? I think it should be 2019. Yes. The letter says 2018 and I read it word for word, but it's 2019. The request to report the date came from Baie des Chaleurs. It didn't come from our committee, but to be fair, they communicated with the members of the committee and asked if we would all be in agreement to push back the date until the 15th, and our committee doesn't have a problem with that. So it actually helps us a little bit to finish putting our file together, so that's a good thing. Are there other questions? We will now go to 8.4, letter from Andrea Burke from District Number 6. Warden and Councillor, I write to you to talk to you about the access of the drinking water in the Clare municipality. We are living now until the month of June, a summer season extremely dry because of high temperatures and low rain. During the months of July and August, about 32.4 millimeters of rain fell on Yarmouth, which is 139.6 millimeters under the average. Furthermore, the temperature was significantly higher than average, 21 degrees comparative to 27 degrees. During the last 3 years, we observed that we are living the changes, environmental changes. So I try to manage my water in a manageable way, but we find ourselves in a situation where we have to find solutions elsewhere. For example, to wash clothes, to cook, to wash ourselves. What worries me, and there seems that there is no plan at the municipal level to help the citizens during all this dryness. And is there a plan? If so, what is this plan, and how are these how is this information communicated? If not, I recommend that a plan should be made up. I thank you to consider this, and to I thank you for the attention that you give to this. Signed, Andrea Burke, District Number 6. There was a meeting from the bylaw committee last night that starts to address this issue, I would say. The bylaw committee met last night to discuss of a few possibilities of bylaw. One that exactly touches this issue that Mrs. Burke talks about. Last year, I think the province gave the municipality it gave municipalities that wanted to dig wells for their residents to do exactly this under the condition that they put a bylaw in place that says that, that explains the process, how to apply the terms for applying the terms of the loan, etc. The municipality of Barrington and of Argyle, they have both been strongly affected by this last year and this year, and they have put for the bylaw. It's a model that is now in effect in those two municipalities. At the request of the council, we've been asked to focus on this issue, and we met last night to discuss, to review a draft of a bylaw similar to what Barrington and Argyle have. So it's something that we hope that we can present to the councillor in the month of October for a first reading. But there are programs in place in Argyle and Barrington and elsewhere in the province that we can use as models to see what works well and what doesn't work well, and to adjust according to our needs here in Clare. For the other points that Mrs. Burke made, the municipality is always in communication with EMO regarding the state. We are looking, we receive communiques from EMO Nova Scotia on this subject, especially with the danger of fire, but we mostly talk about the drought. There are things that we can do as a municipality if we deem it necessary. There are places that we can give access to that have water. There is potable water available for residents. There are ways that we can have bottles of water through the province. There are programs available by the province. So usually it's things that are managed by EMO, but we can, if need be, activate go have access to these resources. But to come back to the bylaw, it's something that we're studying. We're looking to finance wells for residents that need some finance, or for residents that need new wells or deeper wells. It's something that we hope to be able to present in the month of October for first reading and your consideration.
Any questions or comments? Anything that the bylaw should have? Thank you. We will go on to 9, the Chief Administrative Report. Thank you, Mr. Warden, for the treatment of sewer in Church Point. It's a project that is almost complete, but we still have the development of a scaling system. We did not go into that this summer because we had other priority projects, but this project is finishing, so we should be able to look into this in October, November. It shouldn't take too long to install. For the sewer system at the John Thibodeau Road going towards the shore, that project is essentially completed. There were a few problems identified, but they were addressed, and the system is now operational. Riverside Lobster is branched to the system. From what I understand, it's going well. To complete the project, there are a few factors, bills that need to come in, and we will need to pay them and to prepare the necessary documents to send to ACOA to get the reimbursements. For the 250th of Clare, the moving from the stage, outside stage has started. We will have a better use of that stage, of that infrastructure. And for your information, there will be an exterior concert with Kenneth Saunier that will be held on that stage at the new place, which will be between the doors at the Rendezvous de la Baie on October the 12th. And on October 13th, we will celebrate the 40th anniversary of Sonyville Station Song. There will be a small celebration that will be held at Sonyville Station where the track was. For the cultural hub, that project also is another one that is being completed. Inside, we need still the installation of automatic doors. Those are the doors, the exterior doors. We have some interior doors now, but there was one that was not placed in a door inside. It will be done, and that will be done shortly. All the other work inside has been completed, and if you went in front of the building, you saw that the base for the exterior sign was taken down, the cement base, and we are awaiting for the installation of the sign from the supplier. We don't have a deadline yet, but it should be done soon, and that will complete that project. The lighthouse at Cape St. Mary, all the landscaping around the monument, the picnic tables have been completed. The pole for the flags will be put up this week. They are ready to install. The cement block besides the lighthouse and a wooden fence will be done shortly. And we are presently ready to have a follow-up with TMR to have discussions regarding paving the road and the parking. If you remember, that project was part of our capital investment plans for 2019-20, which is next year. For the fire hall in St. Bernard, that is a project also that is almost complete. There were minor items to be done regarding the alarm system and the heating system, but it's being done. And talking with the firemen, they tell me that the project will be completed and to be finished for September 28th, which is a good thing. The Clare Veterans Center, as you remember, we had a tender call to install the activity center for dancing in the basement. The tender call was completed July 16th, and the cost that we received was considerably higher than what we had budgeted. So we did not recommend to go with the project at the time. We decided to re-tender the project with a closing date of October 22nd, 2018. So between now and next week, we hope to be able to look at that request for tender, hoping to get better prices and more interest in the project. For Majors Point, we have no development there. They are consulting among themselves regarding the project for the road. For the Grand Fondo, on September 18th, we had 996 participants, including around 204 or 20% of the cyclists from outside of the province, which is higher than what we had last year. Another figure that is interesting is among the 296, there is 50% that did not participate in the Fondo, so we have new people getting involved. There will be a small Fondo for the children that will take place Saturday. We are up to 83 children registered for this first time with this event. If we look at the whole picture for Grand Fondo, for the people registered this year, we have about 70 people more who are registered compared to last year at this time. For the lodging, the things are going well. They have placed a lot of people. It's always a challenge, but we could meet the challenge this year. The bridge in Mavilette is still under construction. They are doing the decking today. There is still work to be done, but the Nova Scotia tourism structure and renewal tells us it'll be ready for the event. If in any case it doesn't take place, we have a plan B, but it will be decked. To date, we have about 170 volunteers for the event, and if anybody is interested in doing some volunteering, we are ready to welcome more. The outfall pipe has arrived, and we have stored it in our treatment plant in Meteghan. It's 900 feet of pipe. The installation is planned for the spring of 2019. If you remember, we had money in the project to allow us to purchase the pipes, as well as a new pump with a variable force drive and a few more smaller features for the system. The new pump has been ordered, and it will arrive around the 1st of October, and it will be installed a few days afterwards. So that is also a project that is completing finally. It was a long project. We are waiting simply a few bills to come in, and again, when they are coming in, we will submit our reimbursements to the fund suppliers. We have launched a tender call for interest on. We are in discussion with someone to look at the possibilities for the municipality of Clare. The solution that we are looking at is a fiber optic base, and for people where there is less population, we are looking at a possibility of a wireless solution. We don't have the locations where the wires will go through, but there will be discussions with the councils and the mainland, but we are looking at a distance or an important coverage with fiber optics. And we are hoping to announce shortly results to announce with the community. In 2024, World Acadian Congress, a meeting was held to look at the tender and to look at a brainstorming for possible events for the Congress. The members of Clare who sit on that committee are Larry Beach, Clint Bruce, Nathalie Robichaud, and Danielle Leblanc of the festival. I participate also as a resource person when I am available. The tender call has been pushed today, and the closing date is in October, so there is a short turnaround with the condition in the tender call that the closing is October 10th. It will be evaluated on October 11th, and the consultants or the firm will meet with us the week after in Clare and Argyle, because we have not a lot of time to lose. We want to see this going. We hope to finish the whole dossier in our hands in the month of December to have final revisions to send it in January. So we are expecting news from the finances from the province, from the Acadian Affairs Office. There are a few questions, but it seems that they assure me that it is going good, that they have all the information that was necessary to make a decision, but we had no news yet. For the financing, on August the 31st, the municipality had $8,179,338 in revenue versus $3 million in expenses, for a net revenue of $4,778,050. Also on August 31st, the municipality had a balance of $4,250,775 in its operation funds, $188,120 and a total in reserves of 3,197,310. So this last figure can be divided in the following ways. In the operation reserves, we had 443,596, and that figure will change after the decisions on motions we are passing this evening. $1,700,000 in capital reserve, landfill closure, $321,026, and the gas tax reserves, $658,749,000. So, as for our financial position, we are stable. And the meetings where I attended during the summer and recently, I met with Nova Scotia Health Authority to discuss or finalize a agreement with practical nursing for our medical center. That was on October 30th. Jeanette and myself, we met the auditors on September 7th. As the warden mentioned, we presented to the commission on the Electoral Boundaries Commission on September 8th. There was a meeting of the Police Budget Board on September 10th where I participated. The audit committee, as Mr. Camon indicated, met also on September 10th. The meeting with different municipal departments or provincial departments took place, and we had another meeting last night on September 18th. For a few events that will take place this week, we have the Canada-Nova Scotia Petroleum Board will meet on September the 20th in Yarmouth to discuss the BB drilling project, the Grand Fondo that will be held next weekend on 22nd and 23rd of September. We hope that the temperature will be good.
And as the warden mentioned, there will be a workshop on rural internet by the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. It'll also be the meeting of the FAN in October. I think I'll be able to participate this year. And also on October 25th, there will be a session once again on trade and international relations implications. So if my schedule allows it, I will try to go to that as well. And that's my report. Are there questions? Thank you for the report. Next, we'll go to 10, committee reports, 10.1, building permits. Okay.
25 permits for $1.4 million worth of construction. Compared to August of this year, there was 41 permits with a little over $1 million worth of construction. And in August 2017, up to that point, there was $8.5 million worth. And in August of 2018, there was 5.8. So it's down a little bit, but still lots of time to make it up.
As idé.
Are there any questions? 10.2, Policy Advisory Board, Deputy Warden Dusa, your mic. Met on September 10th. The sergeant announced a few details. That's the new member that has arrived into the area. He arrived last month. His name is Yannick Fréchette. He's young. 24, 25, I think. He also told us that another member will be coming soon, because another member, I think, that will be going somewhere else. So this new member will move here. He also said that on October 17th, which is the day of legalization of the marijuana, they're like us, they don't have all the details of what's going to happen, how things are going to work, but it's going to be October 17th. There were a few current stats. They're in English. I will read them. This is from April 1st, 2018 up to September 1st, 2018. Speeding violations, 147. Other moving traffic violations, 63. Seatbelt violations, 25. Other non-moving violations, 79. Off-road Vehicle Act, 3. And the Criminal Code, sexual offenses, 2. Harassment threats, 13. Assaults, 8. Theft, mischief, fraud, it says 1. And I said, only 1? He said that was not correct. But he said that still it's very low compared to past years, so that's good. Impaired driving, 7. And common police activities, check stops, there have been 434 that they stopped cars. Mental Health Act, 41, that's a subject that's being developed in the area, in the area and throughout Canada. They're very worried about that. Suspicious person vehicle, 9. False alarms, 21. 911 acts, 27. So that's pretty much what we have, what we talked about at the meeting. And that's it. Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, 10.3, waste check. Councillor DeVoe. Thank you. We had our meeting last week. We spoke about all kinds of things. We mostly spoke about the extended producer responsibilities, EPR. I encourage the councillors to, those that go to the meetings, the NSFM meetings, if they go to Halifax, I strongly encourage them to promote this. We spoke about all kinds of things. I don't know if Councillor Yvon, if you have something to add. Yeah, actually, there's a few things I'd like to add for EPR. They were trying to go forward with things a little bit. They spoke with Sobeys. They are the biggest ones that are impacted in the province with this. So we just wanted to see what their opinion was about all this. And, they recycle tires now, bicycle tires. I don't know if it would be worth letting know to Velo, or you can put them in bundles of 25 and put them by the curb, and they will actually pick them up. It's a new program that they put in place. They did a test on Quicksters in Clare, like Tim Hortons and Subway. They don't do that great, really. They put stats, the Yarmouth, Deep Bay, and Clare was. They basically take a garbage bag and analyze if it was put in different streams. And Metagan was 80% was put in the wrong place, in the wrong bags. So that's something that they're gonna try working with the restaurants to try to up those numbers a little bit. And that's it. Are there questions? Thank you for the report. Next we'll go to 11, new business. 1101, motion to transfer 600,000 from the operating fund to the capital reserve fund. Stefan, do you want to talk on this? I can talk a little bit about this. Maybe Jeanette wants to come forward too if there are a few questions. Just for information, the next 4 motions are motions that were discussed with the audit committee based on recommendations from our auditors. We discussed more, Jeanette and I, with the auditors on phone. So the first motion is one that we do every year. We transfer the mass of our our surplus to the capital reserve. So you see that we have a surplus of 664,483. So what we propose is that to transfer 600,000 of that amount into the capital reserve. Someone want to do the motion? Councillor Hill?
Plus for the 2017-2018 fiscal year be transferred from the operating fund to the capital reserve.
Someone who wants to second? Seconded by Councillor DeVoe. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried. 11.2, motion to transfer $1,409,555 from the operating fund to the operating reserve. This is a big number. It's just a transfer between funds, essentially. It's not new money. It doesn't cost us anything necessarily. We're just doing this now because in the past, as you know, we were always transferring the biggest amount of our money into the operating reserve, into the capital reserve, but there was always a balance that wasn't transferred, 30,000, 40,000, sometimes more. That money stayed into the reserve, not in the reserve, in the fund, in the operating fund. In the past, it was okay and there was no problem. But the rules have been changed, and now the new law states that municipalities do have to transfer the rest of the amount from the operating fund to the operating reserve. So we didn't do that. And because we didn't do it, all these small amounts every year accumulated. At the point that on paper we had a surplus of 1.4 million. At the same time, we were always being told by the province when they looked at our financial statements that we could go there, that we had a problem with our operating reserve because we had money aside. It's not that we hadn't put enough on side, it's that the full amount wasn't put into the operating reserve, it was just in the account. So all it is really is just with a following discussion with our auditors and just to be, to comply with what PSAP suggests. It's something that will, technically it's mandatory now, but it's not very enforced. But some municipalities do it, some don't, but sooner or later we won't have the choice. And so they will really ask us to do it. So since we can do it now, we thought it was a good time to do it, to be ahead before we would be told formally to do it. It's based on the recommendation of our accountant. Does someone want to make the motion? Councillor Leblanc? I move that the municipality of the district of Clare transfer $1,409,555 from the operating fund to the operating reserve. Someone wants to second? Seconded by Councillor Hill. Is there discussion on the motion? So this transfer, our municipal indicators, this will readjust where our municipal indicators that made us look not as good as we maybe were. Our indicators, our municipal indicators, the province says that to be coded green, which is what you want, that we should have 10% of our operating budget. So the municipality, Clare municipality, has a budget this year of a little less than 9 million, which means we should have 900,000 in our operating reserve. Because of how we did it in the past, we just have a little bit, then we have about 442 in our 1,000 in our operating reserve. So I always had a red light, like an indicator that it was much lower than it was supposed to be. But in reality, we had the 442,000 in that account, but then we had the 1.4 million in the operating fund. So by transferring, we're just going from 442,000 to 1.8 million. So we'll go from red to green essentially. So there won't be a problem. So all these transfers between accounts, we see it more in the non-consolidating financial statements. In the consolidated financial statements, which is what our auditors presented tonight, it doesn't change anything because the consolidation, we have a consolidation of all the reserves in one document. But this, in the non-consolidated documents, you see it. You really see it, the transfer between the different funds. But in the consolidated statements, it's clearer, everything is put together, so you see really the financial position of the municipality. Are you ready for the question? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried. Next, we'll go to 11.3, motion to transfer 550,000 from the operating reserve to the capital fund. This, once more, is similar to what I just said, money that is due between funds. In our financial statements, there's an amount that comes from the operating reserve that is due to the capital fund. So the recommendation, following discussions with the auditors, is that we transfer $550,000 to partly address the funds that are due to the capital fund from the operating reserve. So it's really an internal transaction. It won't be reflected or doesn't change our financial position in the council result. Will someone do the motion? Councillor Thibault. I move that the municipality of the district of Clare transfer $550,000 I move that the municipality of the district of Clare I propose that the municipality of the district of Clare transfer $550,000 from the operating reserve to the capital fund. Someone wants to second the motion? By Deputy Warden Dusa. Discussion on the motion? All in favor indicate by saying yes. Against? Motion carried.
There is some paper here. 11.4, motion to approve the audited financial statement 2018. We need Councillor Camo. I move that the municipality of the district of Clare approve the audited financial statements for 2018 for the municipality of the district of Clare as prepared by Grant Thornton. Seconded by Councillor Poitier. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion is carried. 11.5, motion to recommend recommend the recommendation of a Clare community representative to the REN Board of Directors. We need a motion to recommend Charles Surette for the councillor, for the recommendation to the councillor. I move that the council for the municipality of the district of Clare recommend the appointment of Charles Surette as the Clare community representative for the REN Board of Directors. Does anybody wish to second that? Seconded by Councillor Hill. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion is carried. 11.6, motion to award the tender for the exterior painting at the municipal building. We have discussed it at the Committee of Council, and we only need a motion to grant the contract.
Council for the municipality of the district of Clare award the tender for the exterior painting at the municipal building located at 1185 Highway 1, Little Brook, to Shepcom Construction Limited in the amount of $4,500 plus HST, and that these funds be taken from the capital reserve.
Quelqu'un qui va appuyer?
Anybody wish to second that? Seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. Any discussion on the motion? If I remember correctly, it would come under the estimate. We estimated about $9,000 for the project, and the Shepcom submission was the only one, and it was considerably less. Ready for the question? All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion is carried. 11.7, motion to award the tender for the location of the outdoor stage at the Rendezvous de la Baie. Move Councillor Poitier. I move that the council for the municipality of the District of Clare award the tender for the relocation of the outdoor stage at the Rendezvous de la Baie to Luco Contract Inc. in the amount of $14,987 plus HST, and that these funds be taken from the Clare 250th project budget. Seconded by Councillor Thibault. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, motion is carried. 11.8, motion to grant a tender for the roofing of the wastewater treatment plant in Belleville Cove. Does anybody wish to make the motion? Deputy Warden Dusa? I move that the council for the municipality of the District of Clare award the tender for the roofing of the wastewater treatment plant in Belleville Cove to Shepcom Construction in the amount of $6,340 plus HST, and that these funds be taken from the capital reserve. Any seconder? Seconded by Councillor DeVoe. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor indicate by saying yes. Contrary, no. Motion is carried. 11.9, that is the project concept for the Acadian Community Development, CDNA. You can talk about it a bit. I can read the description in the first paragraph. You have all received this by email, but they are proposing a project which is a business contest for the community challenge. The municipal council would propose the three biggest challenges for the advancement of economic business in Clare with the future vision for the region. This will focus on the building of the business sector, and that also builds an involvement for the community to get some return. This challenge could be part of a strategy to keep the young talent from our area, and also to bring in some immigrants to promote the Acadian and Francophone culture. The main goal is aims for the students at the university to remain in the area. The council would look at the three biggest challenges for the area, and we would launch that challenge to the students in the Enactus group at St. Anne's, and also the students in the business administration at St. Anne's. I don't know if it would be individual or groups that would present a project to address one of these problems. There would be a judging committee that would include the profs at St. Anne's, and then the panel would evaluate the different presentations and would choose the three strongest ones, and from there those three winners would be invited to come to present their solution or their ideas to the council. And from there, depending on if there would be the possibility that those students would work more with the CDNA to look at the possibility of developing that business or that project, depending on what it is. So before we go forward with this project, we want to bring it forward for the first semester this year, early this year, but they are looking at the support of the council to participate in this project. It is not a request for funds, but just a support for the project to bring to the students. The goal is to involve the students, but I know for myself it would be interesting to see what the students, what ideas that they could bring forward to the municipality in form of ideas. maybe something we wouldn't think of, but sometimes we think of what we would do to keep the students, and this is an opportunity to tell them, for them to tell us what is missing in the area. And what they are looking for are three challenges that we see that the municipality has. It would be difficult to do this tonight. There are a lot of options. Maybe somebody could send an email with their three challenges, what you see, and we would look at what came in, or we can have a discussion here. You probably didn't have time to think about this, but the practice in the past was with the CDNA itself, with public forums, and et cetera. We consulted the public. I don't know if we want to do that. I don't know if it would be an idea or if they want ideas only from the council. I had discussions with them, and there is the idea of the time. It has to move quickly. It has to be done inside their course program. And the part of the approach is they want to do it with the council, and the idea for them to come to present to the council that will bring them that experience also. If we would have taken this earlier, we could have integrated this in our community involvement and go with the public. But they would like to start as soon as possible. And as representative for the municipality, I think we know what the big challenges are. It could be lodging or immigration. According to me, one is the lack of services in time in terms of activities after 7, 8 o'clock in Clare, and also for the tourists. So there are challenges there that maybe we could look at. You can send in your priorities if that's how you want to approach this. Each councillor can consult on their part. It's not a bad idea. There will be discussions with the people in your districts, but I think they want this as fast as possible, maybe in the next few weeks. You can only do it as quickly as you can, but if you could do this between now and the end of this week or early next week so that they can start. Bring your suggestions to Stéphane. It is a way to involve them in the community, but it has a value to the council to learn what they will propose. So you all agree to have a partnership with the CDNA with this project? There is a consensus on this? Okay, next we will go on to 12, the in-camera session. We have one item in Reclos, the Echo Park. So for the people in the zone and on site, this is the only item, and we need a motion to go to camera. Moved by Neil, seconded by Councillor LeBlanc. All those in favor indicate by saying